could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Gather around one and all, what a tale we've got to tell. Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. I'm here in Armenia, Colombia, and let's take a look. Pretty spectacular, little overcast, keeps the heat down. We've been running in the low 80s again. The average is typically around 78, so it's a warm spell, but it's certainly bearable. It's even comfortable if you, just from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon to about 3, find a place to go chill, and you'll be fine. It's the mornings have been pretty glorious, and at night it's really cool. It runs in the 60s. Okay, so I got a crap load of stuff to talk about today, and we'll get to the main topic probably in about 15 minutes. First of all, let's take a look at the chat. Juka, good morning. How you doing? Or is it afternoon? It's afternoon for you. Rob, good morning. Fort Lauderdale. Howdy, howdy. Juka, thank you for the contribution. You know it's appreciated. As also, Mr. Anonymous, a.k.a. Jerry. Kind of ruined that one, didn't I? Okay, let's see. What else we got here? David, hey, enjoying Armenia. Nice to have met you last week. We'll talk about that in a moment. Mark, good morning. Oh, that thing is popping up again. Good morning to everyone that came to the coffee breakfast last week. See you again Tuesday, 10 a.m. Yes, it was 10 a.m. And why didn't we know that? Because he dropped the bomb at 11 a.m. in the chat, and then he stopped watching. He went off to do something else, and he left me to try to clean up the mess. Of course, it had me very confused. Keep in mind, he's the one that set the time. This was all his deal. Turtle, how you doing? Nice job last week. A lot of people appreciated that information. Don, good morning from Panama. How you doing? Hot Panama. Well, you're in the cooler part, but okay. So, first of all, most of you are aware of Mike, who's in the chat fairly often. He's on here probably every day for at least the last year or so. He had a birthday yesterday. I didn't go. I had a previous engagement, but Alejandro is bugging me all week about going, and I'm thinking he doesn't even like celebrations. But she got something for him, and she was very pleased and thought he would enjoy it. And I was with her when she got it, and I couldn't understand why. I didn't even get it. I probably should have looked at it more. But this is him showing his present.
Chévere.
Sí,
Of course, I told him he shouldn't be smoking,
Henry.
Boa mis oídos a mí.
and this was his response to that.
Me parece niña pequeña.
Right here. So happy birthday, Mike. Yeah, Alejandro is sending me those video clips, and I said I realized what it was she got him, and like a smokeless lighter, a fireless lighter, and I tell him he shouldn't even be smoking, and that was his response back to me. Rumpole, morning. Good morning to you. Sorry we didn't connect, but that's been my story lately. NB90, buenos dias. Howdy. Okay, so the coffee meeting. I decided to go. I probably won't go to many others. It's not my thing. But I was there. It went on for a couple hours. I was pretty shocked how many people turned up. I didn't really count. I'm guessing somewhere 15, maybe even up to 20. Of course, not all at once because somebody said 11. It was kind of interesting. There was a number of people there that I hadn't met, but most everybody, I think, I knew one way or the other, and they were all coffee time viewers. Excuse me. So I guess it's going to continue, but it's all going to be in Mark's hands, and he can advertise it or promote it or however he wants to do it. I'm outie. William is always in the background. He makes a comment every once in a while, and he arrived about the same time Mike did here in Armenia, and nice guy, and he wanted to stop by and give me something, and then he invited me out to lunch, and I had time, so I said, sure, let's go. So he took me to lunch to a place that I've known about forever, and I've wanted to go, but I stopped myself from going because they post up pictures on the internet all the time with this food that just looks very pretentious. And usually when you have food that's very pretentious, it's not all that great. But he wanted to go there, and so we went. And so I'll show you, this is the place. It's called Cerrone. And before they opened, the coffee place next door to that was, let me see if I can go back, Cafe del whatever. I got ribs, so that was my ribs, and came apart with a fork. They were, it was quite good. they had a pretentious lemonade made out of lychee nuts, but it was actually quite good. I was surprised. I had my concerns. It's kind of a foofy, upscaley kind of place, but it was good. Will I return? Maybe I'll return. I know they've got a menu that changes. The prices were, William, he's a rich dude, didn't bother him, but the prices kind of threw me a little bit. The coffee place next door, well, it was kind of high price for coffee. It was a couple dollars, but I ordered a mochaccino, and I don't like them when they're sweet, and they're usually not sweet here. But this, along with the where we had the coffee meeting, it actually, the chocolate in the mochaccino was cacao, which is quite good. And the one in the where the coffee meeting was, are you sure? I mean, it sort of tastes like it, but it's a little on the sweet side. I figured they must have added a little sweetener to it. But the one, it was very good. But the one at this coffee place was, and this is on 19. It was killer. It was maybe the best I've ever had, including the ones I make here at home. It was, so if you like mochachinos that aren't sweet and made out of natural cacao instead of chocolate, place might be for you. They also had snicky snacks like flavored croissants and little cheesy cakes and I don't know, things like that. So I had my coffee and then went next door. So thank you, William. It was a fun afternoon, actually. I enjoyed it. I finally got a haircut. I'm sure most of you don't care, but it's been about 5 months and looks funny with a hat. But it actually lays down. It's this wearing the hat, which I don't wear this hat except for the video, because a lot of people think that this hat is, how I'm out and around. I will take it occasionally if I go to the airport and I've never seen somebody and I think there might be a problem. I'll bring it and put it in the car. And if I don't seem to be finding them, I'll put it on. But then I've also got the Coffee Time t-shirt. So got my haircut. So that was a big event for me. What was striking? Well, when I arrived in Colombia and I was living in Manizales, haircuts ran about 8,000 to 10,000 pesos. The haircut I got yesterday was 23,000 pesos. No escaping it. Let's see. Mike, happy birthday. And we got Charles. Hola, buenos dias. In New York again, working, but back in Colombia mid-August. Nice. Okay, let's do some news now. Let's see. All right, first news item. This is all the talk locally. There's a zoo in Pereira, and in that zoo, for some time, has been a pair of chimps, Pancho and Cheetah. I could not find the details on this, but there's a big kerfuffle over this because apparently they died because of some kind of problem in the way they were being cared for. Something happened. I don't know if they accidentally got poisoned. I have no idea. But apparently their death was unnecessary. And so it's causing zoos all over Colombia to be reevaluated and talk about, should there be more frequent inspections? Should they change the regulations? What, you know, how those things go. But some people would go on a regular basis to the zoo and would become attached to these little animals. And there's something in Colombia about, I think everywhere people love animals to a certain extent. Here it's like they're almost passionate about it, and I'm going to talk about that in my next news story. But whenever an animal's involved, it's not just you know, teenage girls that swoon over it. It's like a nationwide thing. And if you look at dating profiles, there'll always be love animals in there, kind of like walking on the beach, you know. So I never met them. To me, it's just a news story, but a bit of sadness. What a shame. I'm really curious about what actually happened. If anybody knows, let me know. I couldn't find it. Now, this story I think is quite interesting. Let me open this up. There's a big court case, and the details don't really matter, but it's a place out in the country, the other side of Bogota. And this is in the country. This guy had this dog that kept barking, and the neighbor got sick of it, was upset, filed a complaint. They went to court, and the court said, you're going to have to move these dogs where it's not bothering the neighbors so much, because if we have to come back, we'll probably have to take them away. And they tried to take them away, and that's when a higher court got involved. And a ruling came out of that was quite surprising, unless you live in Colombia. So we've got here the right to bark of puppies. They mean dogs. It's a translation. The sentence of the court that protects them. The court has ruled that you cannot control the barking of dogs nor attenuate their volume. And a quote out of it, the nature of dog is to bark, and it's not reasonable to require their owners to prevent it, to be aware of the moment in which they do it, or to regulate the intensity of the barking. So by law now, dogs have a right to bark. And I'm not sure what to think about that. I'm not sure how much it changes things. See, in the US, you got these noise laws and barking laws, and you just get the little collars, and that trains them, you know, not to bark unless it's something to panic over. And it'll zap them at first, but it stops doing it because, you know, they learn. Or there's other things, and there's breeds you get that, you know, don't bark very much. I raised rat terriers, and they only bark if there's something immediate going on. So there's a thought of that in the US, and it's you don't want your dog to infringe on the peace of others. Well, here they see it more of an equal thing, like you have a right to a dog, and that dog has a right to bark. It's in his nature, and it's unreasonable for somebody to try to stop him from barking. It's not reasonable to expect somebody to muzzle their dog or keep them in the house all the time and things like that. Now they have leash laws. That's kind of a different thing. That's something that is certainly in your control. But it'll be interesting to see how this goes, and if at any point it'll be overturned. But on one hand, I think, you know, it's kind of cool. I mean, I love dogs. I've had dogs most of my life. But on the other hand, I've also lived, when I was in Ecuador, I lived in that high rise on the 7th floor. And every night around 2 o'clock, there'd be a pack of 30 or 40 dogs that would run down the street barking. And if I managed to get to sleep, they would certainly wake me up. They'd be out there barking for a while. And that was definitely uncool. But there, the dogs run wild. And, you know, what happens is somebody gets it, it's a cute puppy. As soon as it grows up and you have to start, you know, paying to feed them, they kick them out in the street. Well, you end up with all these street dogs getting in the garbage. So it's not really a fair comparison, but I was really hating dog barking for a while there. Okay, so that's cool. Now we're going to get into a little bit of politics. There's how am I gonna? Well, the executive of Quindio is up for election. It's not really a mayor because it's not a city. Governor of Quindio, and there's this guy Juan Miguel that was in the Liberal Party, which was somewhat affiliated with the commie sitting in Bogota as president right now. And if you remember, I've been a big fan of the mayor of Armenia, but he was removed from office for almost 2 years during COVID because he was accused of corruption. And that woman came in, and everybody hated this woman, and she was trying to exert her authority. She was trying to come up with extra COVID laws, and tried to get the police to arrest people that were protesting in their cars, and the police refused to do it. You may remember, some or all these stories, and I was certainly not a fan of hers. And then afterwards, it turned out that she was behind this whole corruption accusation, and she was actually the one that had been corrupt, and she was arrested and went through the process. So that's a little backdrop. Well, this Juan Miguel was in the same political party as her. He was in the Liberal Party. As part of that, he was supposed to go out and speak well of her, and he refused to do it. And as a matter of fact, he refused to do it to the point he resigned his position in the Liberal Party, which he had been in for a number of years, and made him a leader of that party, to one of the leaders of the party. So he gave all that up and just resigned. Well, he's been out kind of on his own, but then Federico, who ran for president last time around, who's been the mayor of Medellin, he stepped up and invited him to join his party called Cremos, which is We Believe. That's the meaning of it. So anyway, they held a rally here in Armenia at Container City. Kind of a small area, but a pretty good sized parking lot. And here's a photo from the rally. This is something that's, you wouldn't have expected it for this low level. But there is well, let's just say that this area did not vote for the current party in power, to put it lightly. And they are fed up with, people pay attention, and they're fed up with the way things have gone, the way things aren't being corrected, and even more than that, some power grabs that were attempted. And so this guy, they came out in huge support, even though he fell out of that party, dropped out, resigned. But it's at the same time, this is also like a show of support for Fico. It was a statement over where everything is right now. It wasn't, from what I could tell, it's not just for this guy. It's just kind of the overall picture. And so I'd say it bodes well, but doesn't mean anything in the larger scheme of things, because, well, everybody is more vocal and active now. This place was always more conservative. Okay, so there's that. But now I got some pretty good news. Got some good news. This is, as a matter of fact, it's kind of like a make my day news.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Oh my God!
Did you catch that headline? No? Let me put it back up. Gustavo Petro's son and ex-daughter-in-law were captured for money laundering and illicit enrichment. Who could have guessed? Who could have guessed? You know, it seems to be a popular thing now to run a crime family in politics. But it's been unraveling. I had somebody tell me a couple of weeks ago when the recording came out of the guy ranting and raving, the right-hand man of Petro, about basically, I know where the bodies are buried and I know where all that money went to buy the votes and all of that stuff. And that kind of went viral. And then they found suitcases of money and now in his family, it shows them profiting off of the election and everything that went on with it. A lot of money changes hands during elections, apparently. And so no one's turning their eyes from the situation. They went out and arrested them, and rightfully so. So it's kind of made my day. All right, now we're going to get to the real topic. Let me run down what chats we have here. Coleman, hello from Rio Negro. Howdy, howdy. Taco Phillips, no need for Congress, right? Creamos the crop. Eastwood, yeah. Sounds like USA. Wow, I certainly didn't say that. Hey, Lauren, any guess how much lower the dollar will go? No idea. Never know. Let's go, Brandon. No, I never know. That's why I never really predict it. I mean, if I were to get what I tell myself, we're probably around where I think we're settling around the area it's gonna be for a while, but don't know. I mean, eventually it will go back up. It always does. You get these spikes. I don't really watch it that much anymore. I haven't in a long time because it's going to go up, it's going to come down, it's going to go up, it's going to come down. If I'm getting close to where I need to go withdraw some money, like at least once a month, I need to do that. I'll look around then because I want to see the chart. And has it been going up? Is it going down? Should I go get it today or maybe wait a couple days? It usually doesn't matter that much, but politics have always been like that. Legalized crime. I think it's just getting more blatant. NB 93,000 floor. I don't know. I don't know how anybody can determine that. I mean, we could say 2,800 floor. That's where it was 5 years ago. But I doubt it. And the peso is just getting stronger. I mean, the dollar has gotten weaker, but all across Europe, their money's gotten weaker. So you can, when you have such a broad range of countries where their money is getting weaker, in Colombia, it's kind of bucking that trend. So people said, well, it's great for Colombia. Well, not necessarily. I mean, every time, either way it goes, you've got a set of good things and you got a set of bad things when it comes to, Colombia. So if the dollar is stronger, then there's benefits. If the dollar is weaker, there's benefits, but there's negative on both sides. So if I purchase a condo in Santa Marta, if I invest at least $130 US, I get permanent residency. Well, permanent residency, if you consider 3 years or 5 years as being permanent, So no, not exactly. Hold on a minute here. I got something to. Thanks for all the information you provide, Charles, New York City. Thank you very much. And I've got another anonymous here. Certainly want to acknowledge people that support the channel. From Black James Bond, YouTube username, have a nice week. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. All right, so now we're going to get to the topic for today, crime, and what's going on in Armenia, and what's going on in Quindio. Now, before I get to the bulk of it and my show and tell, I'm going to say that after COVID, I noticed a spike. Now, previously, in Quindio, there were two places that were higher in crime. And that was Montenegro, probably the worst, definitely was the worst. And then you had La Tebaida, not near as bad. And everything else was pretty chill, with its occasional thing once in a while. Since COVID and with the increase of inflation, crime will always escalate in those situations. It's doing it all across the world. But we've seen Kimbaya turn into a fair amount of crime. There was a couple thug shootings out there this year. You're seeing Calarca, a lot of crime rolling through Calarca that wasn't there previously. There's areas you don't even want to go anymore, and it wasn't like that before. Circassia, a certain level of crime in Circassia. So those things have been popping off. And here in Armenia, the mayor saw it coming, put in 100 extra policemen. He only had funding for a year, but they actively went after certain gangs. And I've talked about that. And there was an audit last week or the week before, I think the week before, that I mentioned on here, where nationally they came in and measured, gang activity, however they do that, and determined that those gangs that were here were broken up, and the crime that occurs now are more individual basis, which was certainly a good sign, and there was a direct reason for that. However, in the last couple months, and I haven't talked about it until now, but in the last couple months, we're seeing a spike. And at least one incident was actually sort of in the north, on the east-north side, near where I used to live. So we're going to talk about these, and I'm going to discuss a couple possibilities. All right, first, let me just show you, this is within the last 2 weeks or week and a half. I'll talk about that headline. In Armenia, gunshot murder. This was in Calarca, gunshot murder. This is in Quindio, I think it was Montenegro, gunshot murder. This is in Armenia, gunshot murder. This is throwing everybody. 82-year-old street vendor in Calarca, and he was one shot, killed. Whoever did it ran away. It was like he was laying in wait. Didn't rob him. Nobody knows. I mean, there may be some kind of family issue or something that nobody really knows. It didn't make sense. But it happened, so I put it in there. Now, if you look at cities of this size, in most countries, or Quindio, because several of these aren't in Armenia. I think there are only 2 in Armenia. You'd say, well, that's not, yeah, it's crime, but it's not, it's not like crazy or unheard of. Well, for here, it kind of is. I've told you in the past, there's 4 barrios down in the south, and it's criminal on criminal crime. And so nobody really, it's almost, yeah, I don't know if I want to, it's like nobody cares. I mean, they're just killing themselves. Fine, go at it. As long as you leave everybody else out of it. But it seems like that's maybe spilling over. There was one incident. Where is it? The one on Centenario. As a matter of fact, it's the same complex that Boluto's Steakhouse is. And apparently what happened with these, this guy was watching somebody. I don't know if he had like a fancy watch or what the deal was, but he'd been trailing him, followed him there. So the victim went in, sat down at a table. It was in one of the places in the front of that building. Went in, sat down at the table, and this guy followed him in and tried to hold him up. Let me show you there's no sound to this. Let me show you the little video clip. So he comes up to the guy, he's got a pistol in his hand. The waiter and the waitress, they don't know what to do. The guy wasn't going to have it. The gun went off. I think it was like a .22 caliber. It did shoot him, but he was fine, as you can see. But that was like in the afternoon, broad daylight, in an area where crime never happens. And they followed him, tried to get the guy, whoever he wasn't about to roll over and put up, he was gonna fight him. And you can see the way the gun went off, it doesn't even appear like it was intentional. But these are pretty unheard of things. Another thing that occurred, this was in El Centro, in daylight, again, something that just doesn't happen. You got here, see the motorcycle guy in black, he's got a backpack, and he's in that store. That's a jewelry store. It was him and his buddy. They seem to be taking their sweet time. They went in, they smashed the glass, grabbed some jewelry, and took off. And what's weird to me is nobody seems to be reacting, like nobody noticed. And that's when crime happens here. It's like everybody's involved. And in the jewelry store, nobody ran out of the jewelry store, and the video just seems kind of weird. It's out of place, but it happened, and they broke the glass, stole jewelry, and took off. As a result, you got people in Armenia that are just really up in arms. They're aggravated because Armenia just got this clean bill of health. They're kind of misunderstanding that bill of health was over gangs, but they interpret it as there's no crime now. Well, nobody said that, but they're seeing it that way, and they're demanding that something be done, because when you have criminals out at 3:00 in the afternoon, cases of theft, community requests security, not just in rural areas, but also in urban areas. Now, what they're talking about there is there's been some remote rural places that were broken into this year. And so Quindio, they're putting together a plan of how they're going to react to those things, what they're going to do, because they don't want it to happen. Didn't happen much, but it happened in a couple places. Probably the biggest rural crime was some cows got killed. Somebody killed the cows and took them off for the food. And so what they're reacting to here in Armenia is, you need to make a plan here, and you need to do it now, because we're not going to have this. And I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't start having, vigilante groups or neighborhood watches or something, because they just don't really play that here. I've showed you cases before where, like, this one lady, somebody tried to steal her purse, and a mob of about 30 people ran the guy down and beat the hell out of him. and that's how it is typically done. And the police will come and they'll just kind of stand and watch, just make sure, don't kill him. don't kill him, but you know, a few kicks to the groin, that's okay, and there's been cases of that, and it's mostly kind of low level stuff. Chat's just moving me there. All right, so I want to talk about the situation in general, but let's take a look at the chat. If a waiter or waitress is allowed to conceal carry, maybe they feel obliged. Maybe, but it's a different country. It's not Texas. People wouldn't want that. I feel plenty secure in a compound outside town with 6 Rottweilers. Yeah. What about crossbows? Can you have a crossbow? You can get a permit for a gun. I thought if you own livestock, you get approval for bolt action rifle or shotgun legally. No, you can. I don't know why the rumor is running around, but if you want a permit for a gun, you just have to apply for a permit. It's got strict rules about it. Just like if you're in New York, you can get a pistol permit, but you have to jump through a bunch of hoops. But you can still get it. And that's the same here. I mean, I saw on Medellin Facebook once where they said, well, they don't let you own guns. It's not true. All you have to do is look at all the security guards. Those security guards, those aren't government. They're not police, and their guns are privately owned. So they don't turn around and, if they lose their job, they don't have to go sell their gun. You can own a gun. They want to know why. They want to know your background. Like in New York, you have to have a couple people that have known you for 5 years or 10 years or longer that will sign and vouch for you. Of course, criminal history. There's all kinds of stuff in New York. It's pretty tough. I went through it, but you can certainly own a pistol, concealed carry pistol in New York, and people think you can't because the gun laws are so strict. Well, you can own them here. Actually, what you described is more like it is in Ecuador. They did outlaw guns, and the only people there are rural farmers, and they can get a permit for a shotgun. Turtle, I think only citizens are allowed to purchase guns in Colombia. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, I was referring to, we're talking about Colombians. He was talking about the waiter and waitress and concealed carry and farmers and like that. And I'm saying here in Colombia, it's not true that your neighbor can't have a gun. He just has to go through the work of it. Okay. Problem of going through the deal of getting a gun permit is demonstrating that you need it because your life is in danger. It's not just if it's in danger. It could be for employment. There's I don't remember now, but after it came up, somebody was talking to me. I went and looked at the law for it, and I think there were like 4 or 5 legitimate reasons. There was a bullet list. Okay, so why are we dealing with this? Well, the first one is obvious, and it's obviously legitimate because the entire world is dealing with the same thing. When you have people, let's say somebody has an income of 2 million pesos a month, and then they get hit with inflation, and their rent goes up, and their utilities go up, and their food prices are doubled, and the bus goes up, everything goes up, but their wages didn't go up. Well, if you were living, on the edge. And like this country, like everywhere else, you kind of spend what you make. And so, you know, they get to the end of the month. It's not like they're waving around a ton of money. You have a few people that can put some money aside, but most part, you know, they'll rent according to the scale of what they earn and things like that. So when all of a sudden, you know, the peso drops for the gringo and I lost $1 million something pesos, well, inflation hits people here. They don't have the money now to pay for what they would pay for normally. So it's hard enough to get one job, let alone get a second job. And the number of hours that people get worked here, you don't really have time for a second job anyway. It's not unusual to work 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. People work here. So we have that situation. When you have, and we have a fair amount of unemployment. We were in great shape prior to COVID, relatively speaking, but it's 3 times the unemployment it was then. And Armenia is better than most of Colombia. So that means typically if you're unemployed, you got family, and family will take you in and you know, take care of you while you work it out. But when your family also becomes unemployed and when all those expenses go up, something's going to break, and some people will turn to crime. That crime typically will show up as some sort of robbery. And that's what we are experiencing. Now, when you have these shootings, if you notice those photos, except for the 82-year-old guy that was really an anomaly, hold on here. Why is there such a delay in my video and what I'm talking about here? Let me check something. No, it all still seems to be all right. I shouldn't look. I just saw the video of Boludo and I talked about that 10 minutes ago. All right. When I showed that list of young people, you see they're all like teens or low 20s. They almost all look the same. And this is the category of people that here that tend to get into some kind of crime. They'll work together. They'll put together a few others. They become a gang. You know, they just because they got rid of a certain number of gangs doesn't mean that there aren't there aren't new gangs forming. And I'm getting that impression because the reason these people tend to get shot is because they crossed up with some other criminal. So if they go in and they rob and they run away and split up and they get back together, maybe one doesn't share like he was supposed to share. And you know, they're feeling all tough and they're feeling all gang-like, and one thing leads to another and somebody will get shot. Number 2, there is a burgeoning business here in Armenia. It's known all over Colombia, but it's really been growing here, and that's loan sharking. You have people that are desperate to get their rent paid because they were short on funds or one thing or another, and they're selling off their stuff and they still need money. And the neighborhood guy, it's always in your neighborhood, go see Jose over at so and so, and you go over there and he gives you a loan. Well, same reason you were in that situation to begin with. You don't really have the money. Now you got to pay all those expenses and you got to pay back a loan. And so you kind of get behind on loans. That can be a problem. No, they're not running around shooting women, but But, you know, if a guy goes and gets a loan, he doesn't pay it back, you know, they're like Al Capone wannabes. So you have some of that going on. And what that can do is drive people to theft. You know, it's like, I don't want to face a loan shark. I don't want to have any of that kind of stuff. I'm just going to go rob because I don't feel like I have any choice. So, you know, economy is always a driver for criminality. And I think we had quite a period of time where we weren't succumbing to that when places all over the world were, and I think it's finally rearing its head. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not like, you know, the North is still great, and the crime is still kind of localized in certain areas, but it does appear to be expanding a little bit. And it was a little shocking to see that jewelry store break-in in the middle of the day. That just doesn't happen. So, and if somebody gets away with it, then they're going to go do it again. And so we're at the beginning of a possibility of a crime spree. And the last thing that I'm going to mention, well, these things are legit. I mean, these things actually happened. We're coming into an election season. And what typically will happen is things will get overplayed, overblown. In other words, instead of like a main headline that gets printed 3 days in a row during an election season, it might just be, okay, here's this information. It might be below the fold, and it's still there, but the impact of it can be blown up depending on what kind of attention has been given to it. And there's a internet newspaper here that's kind of grown up over the last year or so that thrives on beating you over the head with bad news and pointing to one politician or another. It's their bread and butter. And so, and I'm not saying that, you know, this crime stuff is real, but I'm saying that the attention to it in a negative way is kind of being blown out of proportion for certain people's benefit. But it's definitely of a concern. What I would say is it's not going to change anything for me. Maybe in a year or two, things get worse, but it'll get worse everywhere. So where do you go? Hopefully, you know, the inflation will settle down. Big countries like China and the USA and the European Union will change some of the things that they're doing. Maybe they'll stop throwing money away in wars, and things will settle back down. The economies will get better. But until then, we are kind of all in the same boat. It's just who gets hit with it first or worst. And for me, I'm perfectly fine just using reasonable common sense. Anything else to say on that? I think that's about it. So, what time is it? Wow, that was a long topic. So, let's see. Rob says we're not experiencing any delay. Audio, video, good. There's just apparently a very long time lag between when I'm sending it out and when it's showing up on YouTube, which just surprises me. All right, so if we have any other questions, we've got a few more minutes before I need to wrap it up for the day. Feel free to ask. And then after that, we'll get on with our day. Let's see. What are the best ways to gain access to English news and movies? What should a person expect to pay for an Estrada 6 apartment bedroom with security and pool amenities in Manizales or Armenia. There's no, all right, that's a handful, and those are good questions. Most places are not Strata 6. I'm living in Strata 4 simply because of its location. Given a different location, it would be in Strata 6. So you can't 100% go by that. There's awesome places. Some of the best places are Stratus 5. So don't get the idea just because it's Stratus 6, then it's going to be, the most awesome. That's not necessarily the case. So don't focus on the Stratus, focus on the property itself. The upside is the lower the Stratus, the lower utilities will be. So that's kind of a nice thing, but it's not a huge difference. I just got two of them and paid them online. So yeah, I've got this one, water, 44,000, and this one is gas, 32,000. Big one will be the electric. That'll be about 140,000. My internet fiber optic is 65,000, I think, something like that. Okay, so best way to gain access to English news. Use Google Translate and use the internet newspapers for Colombia, and Google will translate automatically for you. So the page will come up, it'll come up in English. And security, pool amenities, Manizales, what are you going to pay? The range will be anywhere from 1 million to 2 million generally, and up from there if you so choose. Anything over 2 million, 23, 24, 2.3, 2.4, you're getting into kind of an extra fancy area. Nice places are going to run, 1.5 million to 2 million, kind of in there. Manizales is similar, but it's actually, there's a whole range. I mean, occasionally I'll see a place that's in a nice neighborhood that's a really nice place, and it might be 800,000. And you'll also see where an owner decided to try to cash in. I don't know, and he'll price 2.5 million on a place that should be $1 million less. So there's nothing set. You just have to know your budget and find a place that suits it. And you don't necessarily have to have the best apartment in town. All right. I don't know how I answered that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just struggle. It's like, well, how much does XYZ cost? I don't know. It depends on a million things. But the best thing you do is just worry about your budget and staying within that budget. And as I always say, keep in mind the peso fluctuates, so keep that in mind when you're getting an apartment. I'm at the top end of mine, considering if the peso dropped even more, I'm still okay. But every day that gets chewed up gets me closer to that bottom line, and a panic's not set in, but it's not fun. I mean, you lose 1 million pesos, it's like you better start cutting corners somewhere. Okay. Is that the last question? Are we all done? With this delay, I don't know how long it takes before you can hear me. I just saw that video of Boludo like 10 minutes after I showed it. All right. What time we got? I'll give it another minute, and then we'll all go do what we're going to do. I haven't decided what I'm going to do today. Enjoy my haircut. It was getting pretty bad. All right, well, not seeing any more. I don't want to have dead air. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the contributions I received today. I'll put them to good use. And if you have any ideas on topics that you're interested in, shoot me off an email. There's my email. Send me an email. And if you're going to be coming into Armenia and you need somebody to show you around, talk about culture differences or whatever, give me a holler. And I think that's going to be it. It says 23rd. I was looking for 30. I don't know what that means. Oh, the video date, it says 23rd. Really? Oh, where it's written in, I probably forgot to change that, but I set it for 30 in the computer. So you probably got two different dates. Sorry about that. All right. Well, you'll always see if you go to the website, which is there, whatever video is current is on that first video page. You get your first page, then you go to the video page, the second page. That first video that comes up is the current video for this Sunday. So yesterday, if you went there and looked, you would see it. You could click on that and it would open it up in YouTube for you. But thanks for pointing that out. Sorry. Had a lot of viewers today. Probably didn't really mess anybody up. But you can continue on and watch and learn all about crime. And that's it. We're going to end it here today because I'm out of things to say. Again, thank you all for watching. Thanks for the contributions. And be sure to send me an email if you got questions or you have suggestions. And I'll see you next Sunday.
Bye.